GM everyone, and welcome to another Vega All Hands. I'm Edo from Perception and Community Team, and I'll be moderating the session today. Today's core team sprint review will be presented by the one and only Gordon. So yeah, let's get things going. If you have any other questions regarding the sessions, I'll be on the lookout for them on Twitch, and we can get them responded to you either at the end of each session or at the end of the presentation. Remember to submit questions on what is being showcased today. Any other sort of community or other questions you may have, we can directly address on Discord or on our community call. Hope you enjoyed the live stream, and over to you, Gordon.
Awesome, thank you very much. Yeah, so thanks Edo. Just to follow on that from that, we've also got Charlie today, who's going to talk a little bit around some of the protocol changes that we've made over this last week and how they relate to some of the SIM delays and things like that. So there's yeah, not just me today. There's some cool stuff that Charlie's going to show us as well. So let's jump in. Here we go. So first of all, thanks to everyone for participating in the Sims. Well done, or commiserations, depending on how you got on. But also, as importantly, thank you very much for all of your feedback. So as you can see, the URL down the bottom there, the Vega Protocol feedback discussions. It's a really great place to have your feedback coming in. And as you can see here, you know, we had a big rise in page views, so people were obviously using those discussions, whether they were contributing or reading to find out information and things. But yeah, it's a really good place that the whole team at Vega gets access to and can view and participate, but also the community can use as a discussion forum and talk amongst each other about things in the threads. So yeah, thank you very much for all of the feedback, and that's been really important to us, as you'll see through the work that's been ongoing. So yeah, so that really leads us into what's been happening. So obviously the previous Vega Bytes that went out last Friday detailed a delay to the Sims that we've had. Obviously it was a really hard decision for us to make, but I think it was the right one. The Sims primarily are to sort of prove out the readiness of the network for Mainnet, and you know, Sim 1 was even more valuable to us than we could have imagined, and we've had some really cool feedback, and we've been trawling through an awful lot of the data, and we found some really cool areas to enhance both the protocol and some of the sort of the components of that. So some of the stuff that we've done is around margin update optimizations and capping the slippage. Some of that I won't cover too much now, but Charlie's going to be talking around some of those points in the demo. And they were sort of direct things that we had noticed during the Sim period. And hopefully, you know, now that we've got those sorted and in, Sim 2 will be, yeah, even more robust. We've also implemented the allow signatures command to be submitted by non-validators. So this sort of helps secure the bridge and also means that it's not just on the validators to issue those commands as and when validators change and things. The community can kind of take a bit of control on that. We've also, one of the reasons for the delay was some of the data node stability. We've made some really good improvements, and you know, the network was being used fairly strongly over the Sims, and we've noticed a memory leak. So there was some issues with the event subscriber, so the sort of the code that sort of passes events between the core node and the data node. So there's been some work done there to optimize that, and we also found that we weren't handling the closing of GraphQL subscriptions particularly well. So that over time was causing some problems. So we've made some really good improvements there, and they were primarily the major things that caused the delay. So it's great to have those resolved, and I'll talk a little bit about timings and stuff now that they're resolved shortly. We've also made some updates to the APIs, so we've implemented configurable API rate limiting. So some node operators may choose to sort of have their own sort of protections, but yeah, this will allow node operators to configure rate limiting on their data nodes. And we've made some improvements to the positions API to include some information. If you're like me, getting closed out during the sims quite a bit, this will be quite useful information. And finally, we've kind of implemented some work around the wallet. So if you're kind of developing bots or using the wallet programmatically in any way, the wallet will now warn users that they're breaching the sort of spam or the proof of work rules, and not to actually get themselves banned, but have an error message first to warn them that may be happening. So there's been some really cool stuff happening. That kind of leads us on to some of the QA activities that have also been going on. So you'll see now that we've reached the 90% mark, which is awesome. Obviously, there's a lot more to testing than just the acceptance criteria, and we're now sort of very much focusing on some of the longer full overnight runs, ensuring that they're very stable, especially as we approach that sort of alpha mainnet code tagging. And a lot of sort of refactoring and how we're going to get to open source that repo shortly. We've added 12 additional test cases acceptance criteria, and we've covered another 10 over the last couple of weeks. There's a few more in there, and it's always going to be a moving target. So being up at this sort of
exact. It's not.
Sorry. Can I just ask people on the call to mute? Thank you very much. Excellent. So looking towards alpha mainnet. So anyone that is eagle-eyed can see this sort of required for Sim2 tab on the top of the camera star board there. And what we had done was we were tagging any issues that we had with a Sim2 label. And that was allowing us to prioritize the work because we want to get back to running those sims as soon as possible. I believe there's one issue that was outstanding, which was found from some of that QA activity of the overnight runs that we're looking into. And once that's resolved, we're in a pretty good place to tag and get stuff moved across into our staging environment and then across to testnet. And then this board kind of shows the work that we'll be doing over the coming weeks. So primarily it's sort of bug fixing and things like this. There's nothing critical at the moment that is stopping us from sort of moving towards Sim2, but there's some bugs and things like that, and some enhancements to APIs that will be coming along. And yeah, so finally on that, so on this sort of alpha mainnet sim tasks that we've got going on during the sim period, we've done about 38 cases over the last 2 weeks, which is some rapid sort of development happening there, which is brilliant. That moves us across to what's sort of coming next in the team. So there's further sort of core improvements. So obviously, like the stability of the network is really, really key. So we're looking at the optimization of how we send events. So can we, are there sort of any areas of the protocol that are sending out a lot of events at the moment? Can we consolidate those down and make that sort of event transmission more performant and allow the data node to have an easier time of processing those events? So there's a few areas there that we're looking at in terms of events. And we're also looking at loading from network history performance enhancements. So looking at where we are now, benchmarking, and some of those sort of inserts of the network history segments and seeing whether there's any sort of optimizations that we can do there. So that work's ongoing, stability, performance enhancements ongoing. And then there's some other sort of work around some of the APIs and wallets. So I won't read them all out to you, but generally sort of implementing and enhancing some of those APIs that we've got and making sort of a better UX for people using the protocol. Excellent. So that brings us on to the demo. So unless there's any sort of urgent questions or anything like that on anything we've kind of covered and what's been happening and what's coming next, the demo, originally we were going to sort of do some work around demoing how to run a Vega data node. That will probably come next week because there's a few things that we need to deploy onto that sort of test network, and we've just not had time to do that yet. But we're going to hand over to Charlie, who's going to talk around some of the work that's been done to the protocol since we had Sim 1, sorry. So Charlie, I'll hand over to you.
Awesome, thanks everybody. So yeah, today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the changes to slippage and how they've now been capped now. And this was basically done due to some issues that Lewis found during testing and some simulations, which mostly happens when there's not much volume on an order book and a party has a large position. And then that can be exploited by a party who might place an order at a really crazy high price, which causes your slippage to spike massively, and then you can get closed out even though you shouldn't be. So the fix is a fairly simple one. The slippage is now capped, and that cap is calculated from a quadratic equation from 2 market parameters, and that stops those extremely high slippage values that you might get, which might cause you to get closed out. So I'm going to do a quick demo using Market Sim. So hopefully you can now all see that. Cool, perfect. So yeah, this is Market Sim, and this is going to show the exact scenario that Lewis found, where a party was getting closed out due to really high slippage. So in this, we're going to take the role of a trader who opens up a short position with a volume of about 200, and our initial requirement for margin is going to be around 7,500. So that's that. And the main thing to notice in this scenario, if we look up at the order book at the top, the total volume for the sales is only at 170. So that's smaller than the size of our position. What this basically means is if another party comes in and places an order at a crazy high price, so up here in the order book, you can see it, 10 million, our slippage is now going to spike massively once mark to market recalculates all the margins. So we'll do that now. We'll move the market and we'll see our margin spikes to 100,400. So that's now the entirety of our collateral plus the money we've made so far from our position. So this means we're going to get closed out. Although you can't see it in console at the moment, you can see the margin's gone massively, but also our initial margin is currently at about 1 million. So once there's enough orders on the book, this position will get closed out. And we'll see that now. We'll add the orders in. So now there's 200 orders on the book. There's enough for us to be closed out. Trigger mark to market again, and the position gets closed. So you can see now position is closed and we've lost all our money despite the fact the market moved in our favor. And again, that's because of the slippage component being really, really high. So now I'm just going to do a little bit of filler while I switch to the new version of Core. Okay, perfect. So it's building now. And then I'm going to run that exact same scenario again, this time using the new version of Core. And you should see the slippage caps come into effect and stop us being closed out, which is good. So once it finished building, perfect. It's always slow when you don't need it to be. Here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly click through these. Cool. So here we go. Exactly as before, we take a short position, our margin is the same, and we've got the same order book. Now let's place in that, move the market first, place in that crazy order at 10 million. Once we trigger mark to market, we'll see if the margin spikes again or if it gets capped. So yeah, nice. Our margin has still increased massively, but it's now hit that cap, which we've got of about 30,000. So this basically means we've still got 70,000 DAI or so left in our general account. And once the more orders get placed in the book, we shouldn't be closed out. So we'll now see that happen. Orders get placed, we don't get closed out. So we've now reached the end of the scenario, which is the same as before, but in this time we haven't been closed out and we've actually still got our unrealized profits from the market moving in our favor. So that's the cappage working, really. So yeah, that's the end of the demo. I don't know if there's any questions there. No, that sounds good.
Cool. I will pitch the slide deck from you again. Excellent. Hopefully everyone can see that. So yeah, that's cool. Thanks very much for sharing that, Charlie. I think yeah, that's something that we'd seen over the previous weeks, yeah, obviously is behaviour that we wanted not to happen, and yeah, so we've implemented those changes, and they'll be live in the next testnet release, and thus the next sim. So that's great. Brilliant. So that kind of leads us on to, we've had these delays. I've been talking a little bit around how we've made some really positive improvements, both in stability and on some of those things that we found at protocol level that Charlie's demonstrated. So this is kind of an update of our sort of current plans. So as everyone knows, you know, best laid plans of mice and men and all that. So this is what we currently know today. So you know, if we move some code into testnet, or we have some major issues, then we will need to reassess this plan. However, things are looking fairly positive at the moment. Where are we today? We are at the end of the week of the 13th of February. So we are at the point where we're going to tag either today or tomorrow the Sim2 release code, and that will go into our staging environment, where we will test it out and make sure all of the front end apps, etc., are at the right versions, etc. And then the intention is that code will then get moved into testnet early next week. So probably around, we were targeting the 17th, which is a Friday, but I think it's more likely that it's going to happen on the 20th. And we will have a week's period in testnet where we kind of, yeah, are able to kind of see those performance improvements, both at sort of the data node level, etc., and the protocol. And then once that period, the second light blue box there is successful, we will then be in a position where we can decide whether we are in a good place to run the second sim. The original planned delay was 4 weeks, and that was kind of made up, as you can see here, of a team sprint's worth of work for us to investigate and resolve those issues. A week's period, as I mentioned, in testnet to kind of you know, realize those things running in a test network with the community involved in using it, and a week's contingency. If all goes well, you know, we want to get these sims running as soon as possible again. So as we proceed through the week of the 20th of February, we'll be in a better position to see whether we do need that week's contingency, or whether we can bring forward Sim2 again and have that running at the end of Feb. So yeah, this is the plan as we know it today. Things change, and obviously once we tag the code ready for Alpha Mainnet, there's a whole bunch of stuff that the validators and things need to do there. But yeah, we're very much working towards getting Sim2 up and running again. So those are the dates, and should they change, we'll let people know in the Vega Bytes and in subsequent demos that we have in the core team. Excellent. So looping back to where we started, so feedback. So yeah, all of your feedback is really greatly accepted. So please do check out our feedback discussions page, and yeah, contribute to discussions, help out other people in the community, talk about features you'd like to see and issues you've got, and that's a great place for us all to collaborate and discuss. So that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions, Edo?
No, Gordon, we got one off topic on regulation, so I directed him to Discord. So yeah, no questions, but thank you, Gordon, for leading the session today, and Charlie for the presentation. I hope the audience on Twitch and the Vega community enjoyed the updates that you shared today. And yeah, just as a reminder, we have, I know you mentioned Mainnet Sim2, the Mainnet Sim2 delay, Gordon, but we have CrossGems, which is currently running until tomorrow. And we might have another thing coming up, but I won't spoil anything. So yeah, take part in cross gems. It's a multiple market incentive. That should be pretty fun. And as we said, we'll be updating timelines on Friday with the latest Vega Bytes edition. So I think, thank you everyone, and see you next time. Bye.